The Podcast Learning Festival isn't another learning conference. It's the UK's first event dedicated to podcasting and workplace learning. Live recordings, practical sessions and real case studies. It's taking place in London on the 26th of February. Details are at podcastlearningfest.live. Hello everyone and welcome to this episode, the appearing on video one of the Women Talking About Learning podcast. I'm Andrew Jacobs. In today's digital age, video has become an essential tool for communication, whether for social media, networking or professional presentations. Yet many people still struggle with the idea of appearing on camera. So to talk about this further, we have two fabulous guests. Our first guest is Leo Batchelor. Leo is a video and presenter, coach and former TV presenter, videographer and TEDx producer. Her strapline is Video Without the Cringe, and she's passionate about helping service professionals get started with videos and to be themselves on camera. Our second guest is Sarah Pocklington. Sarah is on a mission to help everyone, especially women, show up on camera without the cringe, overthinking or the hate how I look narrative. She's a speaker, facilitator and coach with 30 years experience in learning and development. With a lifelong love of performing, she blends confidence and clarity with a no-nonsense approach to help business owners and teams build connection and real presence on camera. This was recorded in December 2025 and it is a magnificent conversation, so settle back and enjoy. This is Women Talking About Learning. This is Liu and Sarah talking about appearing on video.
So Sarah, do you want to start us off? Like, what was your video journey? Where did it all start?
It's actually started by accident.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd said to me 2 or 3 years ago I would be talking about people appearing on video, I would have said absolutely no way. And the first time I did, the only reason I ever did it was because I was challenged to do it as part of a group I was in. And there was a reward, there was a bonus if you did a live broadcast into the Facebook group. And I'm like, I'm going to have that. And I'll be totally honest with that. There was a bonus. I knew it was going to be a good bonus, and it was.
Yeah.
And I did this live into the Facebook group. And bearing in mind, I spent my entire career in learning and development at the front of the classroom, designing, delivering, facilitating, running workshops. And suddenly I was stood there and I'll call it the blinking red dot. Mine's actually blue.
Yeah.
Looking at this dot and I went, ugh. And it just felt really, really odd. And I did it and I enjoyed it. And then people started asking me, well, you were really good at it. How did you do that? And it made me, that's what got me thinking. And then I realized, then I started to notice just how many people weren't doing it. And that's on social media, for business, at work, all that. It's just that people weren't doing it. And I was like, why aren't people doing it? And I'm sure we'll come back to that later on. But how did you get started, Liu? Where does your interest come from?
Yeah, so I was always petrified of public speaking and but particularly around like sharing ideas. And I remember as a teenager, a friend of mine wanting to like play radio, like pretend that we were radio hosts, and it freaked me out so much. So it was like the furthest thing from my thoughts. I started working at a stop motion animation studio as a producer, so I was making videos, but of course never being on camera. And the first time, I did a little bit at university actually, because I did a lot of sport and I did a lot of wakeboarding, and there was like a Nike campaign about like engaging women more in sport and activity. And so they were talking to people about their sports. And so I could, although I was scared about kind of public speaking in that formal sense, speaking about a sport that I loved and was enthusiastic and I wanted to get more women into it, that actually was all right, because it wasn't, okay, I've got to get this right and I've got to get it perfect. It was just, hey, being excited and chatting about what you love. So actually that was probably my very first experience of getting on video. But actually then when it came to like doing it myself and making videos myself, it's a whole nother world, isn't it? But I actually did a challenge called 100 sports in 100 days. And I basically, as the name said, did 100 consecutive sports in 100 consecutive days and filmed myself doing those sports. So it was kind of a bit of a throw myself in at the deep end. If I commit to doing this challenge, I've got to make these videos. And again, I was talking about sport, so it was easy. And a lot of it wasn't me talking, it was doing activities. So it's funny, for me, the nerves were always about what I say, but being on camera wasn't the big deal. It was like, what do you say, really? But that's been the area that I found kind of most interesting. Is there's the fear of what we look like and showing up, but actually
Yeah.
saying something without waffling and being, something that people care about and get value from, for me, has always been the challenge for people, but also the interesting bit, I think, where there's that opportunity to learn. So yeah.
I think that's really interesting because because you were doing something that wasn't you directly in the spot. It wasn't 100% focus on you, but it was. It was about you. You were in the video. You were showing your skills. You were trying out those different sports, and it was something you were immersed in and felt comfortable doing. The video became secondary, but it is that sort of being in front of the camera, whether you are doing it on your phone or you are maybe talking to a remote audience. It is very like the public speaking side of things. It's very much that, it's a lot of people struggle to stand on stage and talk to an audience.
Yeah.
Historically, it's been noted as one of the biggest fears that people have. And there is a huge element of that when we are doing video. And I think it's also about just at this point, make the note that we're not just talking about video creation here. We're talking about recording ourselves on camera in some form or being involved. So that could be a network meeting, it could be a job interview, it could be content that you're creating for your business, but you are putting your face on camera and you are putting yourself out there. And it's that combination of the fear of public speaking, and for me, it wasn't so much the what am I going to say? It was the, oh my God, that's my face. That's what I look like. I'm putting my face on the screen. Does anybody want to see that? Am I too old? What are people going to think? And that judgment piece was coming in. So you weren't just dealing with the public speaking fears. You're dealing with some internal stuff about your identity and how comfortable you are being seen. And you were comfortable being seen doing the sport.
Yeah.
We're not recording the video for this conversation today, but you and I are talking to each other via a screen. We're looking at each other on camera. We're inside that little box. It is a bit uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just odd.
Yeah. And this is what I guess you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head that video makes us more self-conscious because we can see ourselves and we're recorded and preserved in what we say. But what you said about identity is spot on. And that's what I love about video now is that, yes, it's hard and it forces you to come face to face with yourself and actually see yourself back. But for me, that's where the opportunity is. Because when you see, what you don't like about yourself on screen, I often find it's when I'm trying to be something I'm not. And so that's how I try to approach it, is if I see something or I'm feeling about being on camera, it's often because I have this, I have to be like X, Y, or Z. Whereas when I get back to, I can just be myself, suddenly what I see I like, but I don't like seeing like the mask or the act or the fakeness. But we all do it. I think we subconsciously do it, don't we? Because there is this expectation of, well, I mean, certainly now video is so accessible and cheap and it's everywhere now. But I mean, back in the day, certainly when I started work at the animation studio, it wasn't live action, but video was expensive, so expensive. And you get one shot at it and you can't do it on your phone. You're like hiring a big production crew. So there is this pressure to get it right that I think we don't get so much now, but we're still in that space where it feels like we are and there's this expectation. Whereas in reality, when you're filming anyway, you can just delete it. If you don't like a shot you've taken, delete it and do another one.
That's absolutely, I mean, I'm of an age where I didn't grow up with cameras, and I mean, my parents didn't have a camera. So I don't have that many photographs of me growing up. And it's when I'm about 14, 15 and I get given my own camera and then suddenly everything is recorded. But you had that thing of, you had your, 24 shots on the camera. And I know I'm talking about sort of old fashioned type photos here, but you were very careful what pictures you took. But now with the digital age, you can do something and you can redo it and you can redo it and you can redo it. And sometimes the act of redoing it is where the pressure comes from, because you are looking for the perfection.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot easier from that point of view, in that we can get rid of what we don't like and we can create something else. But actually getting people to do it in the first place and understand and be comfortable with, it's not about how you look and how you sound and how you come across, but it is in your head about how you look and how you sound and how you come across. And the expectations, we were talking about this before we started, the expectations, particularly on women, in terms of appearance and how they show up and how they look. If you've got somebody who is even mildly sensitive about how they look, and you then are putting them in a situation where they're going to be on camera, so this could be in a Zoom meeting at work, for example, or maybe they're going to an online networking event, there is a huge amount of pressure on that person before they've even got started at what am I going to wear, what looks good, and it goes beyond the normal rules of what am I going to wear, because you can wear things in person that you maybe are not quite so ideal on camera, or you think you can't wear certain things on camera because somebody said, oh, you've always got to wear block colours. And it's about having that confidence in yourself, like you say, to show up as yourself. You don't have to have your makeup done, you don't have to have your hair done, but people feel that they do. And then again, it's that pressure before we've even got the conversation started, and people are bringing all of that into the content.
Yeah, definitely. I almost, the temptation has in the past been, certainly for me, to want to put makeup on or whatever, but I actually actively don't now, majority of the time, because it's not how I show up in person. Like, I'm lazy. I'm too lazy to do my makeup, and having a sporty background, having makeup and then going for a swim, whatever, isn't necessarily conducive. But I guess for me, it's very much, I think the temptation, as we've said, on camera is to, right, I've got to put on this performance or this show. But actually, for me, it's like, how can I be as congruent when I'm on camera as I am in real life?
Yeah.
And so it's, if I look all kind of dolled up and perfect on camera, and then in real life I turn up all scruffy and no makeup, hair all a bit crazy and wild, then that's not, for people who meet me, they're going to go, oh, something doesn't fit and doesn't, like, it's not aligned, right? So I actively don't. But then saying that, I make sure I've got a good light, right? So it's still being aware of how you look, but trying to do it in a, I don't know, for me personally, it's in a non-dressy way, and more of a, maybe kind of, I guess, using natural assets and just being conscious of how things like lighting and sound and all that kind of thing does impact how well people can consume and engage with what you're saying. So it's an interesting balance.
And that's so interesting. Yeah, that's so interesting, because that's something that I talk about a lot, both with organizations, when we're talking about how they can get people to engage in their Zoom meetings, but also with business owners who want to do more social media type content. They want to get more visible. And it is about understanding the basics. Most of us don't know. Most of us have never had any training in how to use an online platform. We've never actually been on a course on how to use our phone and make a video on our phone. Yeah, let's face it. And there are people who cottoned on to that and said, right, people don't know how to do this, so I'm going to make my business showing people how to make videos for social media like Instagram or TikTok. And they'll give you the tips. And that's where most people have had their learning from. And things like, whilst, I mean, I don't always wear makeup. I do sometimes. For me, it depends on the type of meeting that it is. It depends on who I'm talking to. It depends on how I'm feeling. It really depends on, what would I do if I was going in person? That's my rule of thumb. If I would get dressed up to go and meet this person, whether it's a friend or a business meeting, I will get dressed up or not. It really depends on who it is, rather than letting that sort of, oh my God, I've got to get dressed up. This is for business. I must look a particular way.
Yeah.
Get on top of me. But
Yeah.
if you show up as you, if you are comfortable in what you're wearing, if you are comfortable with how you are in that moment, knowing how to use what you've either got in your hand or on your desk is key. And things like lighting, I'm so pleased you mentioned that. It fixes so many things. If you've got good lighting and it's lighting that's in front of you, not behind you. I mean, we've all seen those people that that sun halo
in silhouette.
off the look, and you feel like, can't see your face, mate. I can't see your eyes.
Yeah.
And of course, eye contact is a thing. And if the lighting is bad and I can't see your eyes, we're never going to connect. Whether you are out on your dog walk, chatting to your phone on about today's top tip on wellness, or you are running a Zoom meeting for your team. If I can't see your eyes, if I can't see your face clearly, the connection's not going to build. So lighting, and the classic for me is, as you can see, the listeners can't, but I wear glasses. So I have to think really carefully about where my lights are positioned, because otherwise if I use a ring light, I'm in danger of having UFOs on my lenses. If I'm by a window, I get reflection on my glasses, and you can't see, we get so much information from people's eyes.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to see them. So the lighting, if you tweak nothing else, if I had to pick one thing that people could do better, it would be around sorting out your lighting.
Yeah. Because it can be quite a very, relatively simple thing that can make that big difference, isn't it? But then I will also say, I guess sometimes people then go the other way. They get so obsessed with the technical side that two things. One, it becomes like an easy way to procrastinate and perfectionism, because it's like, I've got to have all this kit. And I was working with a kind of a friend and colleague of mine who had bought all the kit and wanted to start doing video. And he kept kind of going back to talking about kit, but we talked around in circles, and I was like, you know what, your kit, this is becoming a way of you procrastinating versus, like I said, what is good enough? What can you do simply and easily, rather than allowing that to kind of come in and take over. And I think particularly, stuff we see online, and I see a lot of it because it's in my industry of like the very technical kind of people who are coming at video from a technical point of view, like, this is how you make a perfect video, and you should do this and you shouldn't do that, and all these rights and wrongs, which are correct, but they're often the advanced level of video and things like that, and getting on camera versus, right, you know what, lean startup approach, what's the minimum easiest thing you can do to get on camera? But lots of people like focusing on it because it's a good way of procrastinating it, when actually, going back to what we were saying before, what's stopping them is that it feels a bit cringe and it doesn't feel like me and all this kind of thing. So yeah,
and it's really, really interesting that you've said that, because that's exactly what I find when I'm working with people. I ran a program last year which was basically about building people's confidence to go live in a live interview, which would be live streamed onto a social media platform. And I always started with the equipment and the technology. So how to get their lighting right, think about their background, camera position, that sort of thing, because that was the thing that people were giving as the reason they didn't want to do it. That was the number one reason people didn't want to do it. And then it would become, when I get a better microphone, when I get my new light, I'm getting a new camera. And it's like, right, you've got your camera, you've got your microphone, you've got your light. Now, why aren't you doing it? What's the real reason? So I think the technology and the equipment is often used as an excuse, but you have everything you need in your hand, in your pocket. So we know our phones are so sophisticated now, and we can do really clever things with them. And just knowing those basics about getting started, and so good lighting, looking at the camera, that type of stuff, and then just talk. And maybe start with something like you did, which was doing the sports stuff. Because that was a nice bridge into it.
The easiest way, absolutely, of getting on video, like you said, of stuff you can talk about and you're excited to talk about. Like it seems silly sometimes to say, but most people aren't excited by what they're trying to talk about. Like, yes, they might be committed or passionate about it, but maybe they're trying to say it in a way that's a bit flat or dry or very corporate or very stiff, rather than what do you generally like energized to talk about? And then that comes across on camera. And yeah, you might not be perfect and precise and concise and all this kind of thing, but that doesn't matter. And that for me personally was the big shift in being able to get on camera myself, was when I went, you know what? In my head growing up, I was always like, oh my God, I'm too much. I'm scatty. I'm like I had too much energy and like too much excitement. And I was always trying to like, I don't know, dull it down and be normal. Whereas when I went, you know what? I do get carried away and I do get overexcited, but actually for the right people, that's quite infectious and it gives them permission to love what they do rather than this thing of trying to be, yeah, perfect. You can't, I don't know, maybe can you be perfect and passionate at the same time? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think you can be perfectly passionate, but I don't think you'd be
Okay.
perfect passionate.
And passionate.
And
Okay.
I think it's right. It's that expectation that people have built around this. They see somebody else doing it that has really high production values. And I think there is a difference. It's not scientific,
Hmm.
but I tend to find that men generally are more willing to just give it a go.
Yeah.
But they're also more likely to go and buy the expensive kit.
Hmm.
Whereas a lot of the women that I talk to, it's like, how do I get started? How do I get over this? Oh my God, I
Yep.
look terrible. Blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And they talk themselves out of it. So they're willing, they want to give it a go, but they talk themselves out of it. And it's when you show up as yourself in person,
Yep.
people are drawn to you.
Mm.
The people that like you and feel your energy and get what you're about are drawn to you, and they will come towards you in the room at that networking event. You will find yourself in conversations with them. And people think that doesn't happen when we're on camera, when we're doing virtual conversations and recording meetings recording videos is a one-way thing, but people will engage with watching that video and then come
Yeah.
back to you. But
Yeah.
if you can bring your energy, and that's a lot of what I do with people, is focus on who is it that turns up in person and how do we get that person to turn up on the camera.
Definitely.
And there is a bit you said about being scatty and a bit too much, but actually that works on camera because you do need to generate more energy when you're on the camera, because there is a loss as the message is transmitted. I can't be more scientific than that, but it's that idea that energy does dissipate as it goes through the lens.
Okay.
So show up as yourself. I'm quite bubbly. I'm quite animated. I use my hands a lot when I'm delivering talks. I tend to move around a lot. So I've created a setup for me at home that allows me to do that. So I'm standing up as I'm talking to you now. A lot of people get locked into that. I'm at my desk. I need to sit down and record this.
Yes. Yeah. And that's very much, coming at things from a production background as well. That's something I've very much seen is because traditionally people who would make videos would be a video professional, right? And they have their production process of how they're taught, what the traditional values of how you make videos, but also what makes it easy for them to edit and produce, right? And then the person on camera gets kind of slotted into that process, but often they don't necessarily fit into that mold that the person's made, which is often, right, set up a camera on a tripod, nice and static. The person sits there with perfect lighting, big camera, all this kind of stuff around them. And that inherently feels unnatural for most people, for sure.
Yes.
Whereas something I'm trying to do a lot more of, and it is almost think about the person first. Like, yeah, how does the person naturally communicate? And like you said, if like you and like me too, I use my hands a lot. I like moving around. Like I always have lots of energy. So sitting still and rigid doesn't work. So it's going, right, how can I create a filming process that enables me to be big in my gestures and things like that, which is often not a static camera in a rigid kind of position with me sitting at the desk. It's a walk and talk, for example. So yeah, I find it really fascinating that how we balance this, both the public speaking, the communication side, combined with the video production, the technical side, and how they are interlinked, but we often go technical first and then us afterwards, rather than let's bring that up first and design around it, which I don't hear or see many people doing. But I think there's a big opportunity in it, for sure.
And I think there's people as well that will say, well, what I do doesn't work on video. I'm about meditation and calmness and stuff like that. So I do want to be sitting down. I do want to have that studio effect. And I think what you've just said there, when you work with somebody like yourself, you can get them to help you to create that in
Yeah.
a way that maybe you can't create on your own at home,
Mm-hmm.
because you can give them a bigger space, for example. You can help them with the lighting and help them to create the ambience that they would have as part of it. But people say, well, it's all right for you because you're doing training. And they'll say, video isn't for me because. But I think if they actually talk to somebody, there are lots of different ways of using video. And
Yeah.
sometimes having the professional is absolutely what you want.
Yeah, you're right. And because we default too much to, or certainly in the space that I work with, people often go, well, I have to do knowledge sharing videos and I have to be the expert and give my top tips on how you do X, Y, and Z. And if you're a coach or a facilitator, for example, you don't, your approach of how you support people day to day is not to tell them what to do. Often it's to create the space for them to find their own answers. It's to ask questions. It's to be curious. And this goes counter to I'm the expert on this and this is what you should do, rather than exactly as you said, okay, how can you be that inquisitive, curious person asking questions on video? Okay, in theory you'd go, well, you've got no one speaking back so you can't, but there absolutely are ways, for example, you ask that question and then you share examples. Like most people would in a session, right? You'd ask the question and then maybe you'd go, well, I'll give you an example and then we'll go around the room and everyone else can share. But there's always that setting the scene at the beginning, isn't there?
Absolutely is. And I think there's also some very common mistakes that people make. And I know the one that I see most often, and it's not so much a mistake as a technique that people can develop. And that's the whole looking at the camera thing. There's a lot of people and we do it because we're programmed to look at faces. So because we want to feel like we're talking to somebody, we tend to talk to the screen more than we talk to our cameras.
Yeah.
And getting into the habit of talking to your camera rather than looking at the person, or when you're recording on your phone, looking at the camera on your phone rather than at your face on the screen will make a massive difference, and it will change how people view that video because they'll think they're being looked at. What do you see as the most common mistake or a technique that people could start to adopt and practice that could really shift their
Yeah, I think, well, I
video?
mean, we've kind of touched on it already, but for me, the biggest mistake is when people have this rigid format that they feel they have to fit into rather than finding their way. And that's often when the cringe comes in. So, I mean, often I always start with when it comes to talking to camera, it's like, right, go for a walk. Go and do a walk and talk style as just give it a go. And for some people, it doesn't work for everyone. But that's probably the biggest, where people often get the biggest breakthrough is, oh, I can do it when I walk and when I'm, because then they don't have to look at the camera all the time. They don't have to stare down the lens. They can look around, they're looking off screen, and it's far more natural. So I think that's, like I said, it doesn't work for everyone, but for some, it's like, oh my God, why didn't I just think of this? It feels so obvious once you've done it, really. So that's probably like the biggest thing. We talked about, getting too obsessed with the technical side. I think also, and I guess another thing, and I'm going to probably upset some marketing people saying this, but often people think about their audience too much. And that's not to say don't, but when you're getting started, often there's so much emphasis on, well, how do I add value and what will they like to hear and all this kind of thing, that we get it's almost like we're so obsessed with kind of pleasing everybody else that we lose our center, we lose ourself, and we're like, okay, what do I want to say? And therefore that's often why people will come across quite flat, because they're trying to give to others without having any energy or belief or passion themselves to give with. So again, it's counterintuitive, but I often say, you know what, be selfish. In your early videos, be super selfish, film what you want to talk about, what lights you up, have some fun with it, and don't worry too much about the audience, right? Further down the line, yes, you can start tweaking and going, right, what actually will people get value from? But at the beginning, don't worry. Like, that's how we all start off in life, right? As kids, we play with the toys and watch the movie that interest us. And then that shapes us, and that often leads into, okay, well, what, at school, you can kind of go, right, well, what degree should I do, or what A level should I do? But actually, you've kind of got to enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to last very long. Yeah, you might have an amazing, and you might really hit the nail on the head for a lot of people. But if you can't be consistent with it, then it's not going to have the long-term benefit, really, I guess, that people are looking to get from video and communication in general.
And I think it's about remembering why you're making the videos, because
Mm.
videos give us an opportunity to introduce ourselves to people, to be in a room with people when we can't physically be in a room. And so there is a pressure to do it, because otherwise we feel that we're missing out on an opportunity. But the person who shows up needs to be the person who would show up in person. I was saying before. So I love that tip about start with something that is easy for you to do, even if it's just introducing yourself. And the words that I just used there, even if it's just that sounds like I'm diminishing it, but it's such an important place to start. If you come on and you introduce yourself with that energy, with your hair all windswept because you've been out in the rain walking your dog.
Yeah.
People who've been out this morning in the rain walking their dog will immediately be drawn to you. It's like, here is somebody that lives in my kind of world. So it's a great way for you to show who you really are. And you're allowed to be who you really are, because that's who people are going to engage with.
Yeah. And what you said there kind of really hits the nail on the head, that a lot of the time, all of this stuff we're talking about with video is permission, like permission to be yourself, permission to be windswept, all those kind of things. And I think there's an opportunity where maybe in the past that there wasn't the permission, whereas now with videos becoming more, especially AI videos becoming perfect and polished and all this kind of stuff, whereas actually the stuff that does well is the authentic, the messy, the rough, because then people know that it's real. Right. And you're saying about being windswept. I did one, a few weeks back, and it was kind of all over the place because, and I purposely did it in the wind, and I knew the audio would be terrible because with all the wind, but actually it was great because it was a bit crazy and a bit exciting and different. And we talk about visual hooks, but actually, that you get that when you're not perfect in those spaces, really. And at the end of the day, video is a tool.
It is a tool. It is a tool, and also, but I think it's a tool that does come with a little bit of baggage. And really, I think you and I are here to sort of reduce the baggage that comes with it, particularly for women, because most of the people I talk to about this are women. Most of them say, I do feel pressure to be on camera. I don't know what to say. I'm worried about being laughed at. I'm worried about looking stupid. So they start their videos with, oh, sorry, I look such a mess, or sorry, I didn't have time to put my makeup and stuff on. And it's like, no, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
You might feel like you want to do that, but honestly, until you point it out to somebody, nobody's even noticed. And if they have noticed, they go, oh, no, great. A real human being, somebody I can relate to and identify with. But it does come with pressure. So trying to reduce that baggage, reduce that pressure, I think that's what we're both all about.
Yeah, definitely. And but some of it, I think, where maybe not always, but maybe kind of women are kind of maybe more sensitive to it, I guess, is I think, is maybe being more receptive to how we are going to be received, and how kind of that expectation of wanting to make sure we're doing a good job and not boring people and are concise and also, maybe sensitive to how people will respond and how our message is going to land. Whereas if so it becomes tricky to there's more going on in your head to, okay, how will this land? Will they agree? Will they get it? Am I going to be too bossy if I'm giving top tips? Is it, it's that perception to it, which means there's a million and one, okay, I've got to do this, and this, rather than just screw it, I'm going to be myself and like it. And so I don't think it exclusively applies to video. It just obviously shows up in video because we see and hear ourselves, and because there's that permanence to it when it's recorded and captured and then maybe shared beyond that.
And so it's that element of judgment, which again is something that often women face in the workplace, in business, generally more than men, not exclusively, but generally more than men.
But I think all of this really, I guess, like we said at the beginning, there's this big pressure and we see people online doing all this stuff, but it really is about starting small. And in some ways, that yes, the algorithm and kind of LinkedIn getting harder and all this kind of stuff is quite tricky. And it's often a reason for people to kind of not do it or to worry about doing it because they've got to get it right. But I actually think in some ways when you're starting out, it's a good thing because you can go, you know what? And I'll often say to people, okay, let's do some videos, but you know what? And if they're worried about that judgment, I go, in all honesty, probably not many people are going to see it, right? When you first start making videos, in the nicest possible way, they're going to be a bit rubbish, right? It's like when you first play tennis for the first time, you are going to be rubbish. It would be terribly arrogant to assume you're not going to be, right? So it's like, you've got, because you've not refined your message, you've not refined your style, you've not refined your presenting, you're going to get a few, your supporters, your fans, your friends giving you a like and that kind of stuff. But it's mostly going to get ignored by the algorithm because you've not finessed. And it's only by doing, and I very much love the idea of like the lean startup approach in the context of communication and video and building your style on social media. Over time, you will, as you get better, more people will engage. And by which time you won't be so nervous, you'll be more on it and you'll have nailed what works and what doesn't for other people. But you only find that by starting. And too many people are like, they're all in their head and they're like, I have to work out my message, I have to work out my style, I have to look perfect. And all of this stuff not only stops them, but also you can't work it out, right? You can only work it out in reality. And this is what I find so interesting about video is it's like a dance. Like we all get obsessed with, right, how do I be the perfect tango dancer, right? And I'm kind of getting my steps and all this kind of stuff. But a tango is danced with two people, right? And so there is that interplay. And yes, you learn your steps first, but then you've got to get out in the real world and dance with your audience and step on each other's toes and get it wrong. And then you'll start to flow together. So for me, it massively is about starting small, having a go. I mean, a specific tip around this, I've had a couple of clients who have said, they're wanting to put stuff on LinkedIn, but they've started by putting stuff on TikTok because they don't really care about TikTok. And they're like, oh, it's so flippant and all this kind of stuff. They put it out there to kind of almost like their training wheels and their practice ground and their sandbox where they can try things out before they then move over to something more scary, in inverted commas, like LinkedIn and professional networks.
That's really interesting because I've had people who've come from LinkedIn and gone across to TikTok and it's taken off on TikTok because it allowed them to bring out their personality and to have their style. And I think from a getting started point of view, people often say to me, it's like, well, I need to learn it. I need to rehearse it. We're back to that perfection thing. And what I tend to do with mine is I'll work out what I want to say. I'll say it out loud a couple of times before I record it, and then I'll record it, and then I post it. So I always have this thing so people get very hung up on the live element of it. It's like, I need to do one while I'm out walking the dog today. And they'll start by trying to do it live onto whatever platform. And it's just disastrous. It's just stressful and anxiety and it doesn't work and all that. So what I do is I do a couple of run throughs for myself and then I press record it. And when I'm happy with the recording, that's when I post it to social media. So it's live and it was done in one take, but it's not live in oh my goodness, I'm committed and I've forgotten what I was going to say and what's everyone going to think
as live
kind of way. So it is that sense that you don't actually have to be, it's live, but you don't have to be live into the platform.
Yes. Yeah. As live. And then you don't have to worry about technical things and all that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, absolutely. No, really good. So I think we're coming up to time. We're given the checkered flag, like final lap. What would you say, I guess, kind of top takeaways, I don't know, 1 takeaway, 3 takeaways, whatever works for you, for people getting started with video?
Is to give it a go. Find one thing that you think you can talk about with your passion, your energy, your personality, because it's your personality that's going to make this video work.
Definitely. I think my tip would be to pick up your phone with no intention of posting and just talk to it and let all of the gobbledygook as it feels in our head, get it all out, right?
Yes.
I see it a bit like in your head, and all the thoughts of what you should and shouldn't do is a little bit like that drawer full of all the crap that you're like, you should clear out. It's like
Drawer that's got everything in it.
exactly. So my starting point for people is hit record, do a 10-minute video of you just rambling, right? But as you're rambling, be sensitive to, oh, that bit felt quite good, or oh, that bit really didn't feel so good. And that will guide you to, oh, maybe this is the topic XYZ I can talk about easily, but actually topic ABC, if I'm honest with myself, I don't really care, or it's not my thing. So almost learn by doing and by feeling in a safe space before you worry about posting. And that removes some of the pressure. And by the time you get to there, you're comfortable talking to camera, really. So yeah, we've got some good tips.
Absolutely. I really like that idea. And, just get it all out there and give it a go, because you'll also pick up in there how you come across.
Yep.
And you will be coming across better in those bits where you are feeling really comfortable and really engaged with your topic, that you will see the difference.
Exactly. It's like use the tool to find your own answers rather than trying to wet them in your head. But yeah, good stuff. Well, so it's been lovely chatting, and hopefully people have got some insights, and we might see, I don't know, if anyone is listening and posts their first video, please tag us in it, because it's always lovely to see and hear when someone's stepped out of their comfort zone. So yeah, been really good chatting.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been an absolute joy talking to you today, Liu. I can't believe where the time goes.
Yeah.
They probably say that on every podcast ever. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you so much to everybody who listens to this.
The journey of embracing video is unique for everyone. I'm still not confident appearing on video. That's why I do podcasts. I have a face for radio, and the voice, some would argue. A massive thank you to Liu and Sarah for sharing their personal journeys with video and offering valuable tips for overcoming common fears. You'll find their details and all the links mentioned in the show notes. We're back in a couple of weeks, and next time it's the identity one. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.